Strasbourg, July 1518. A city bustling with life in the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. But this summer, something unexplainable would haunt its streets, a nightmare that defied reason and left historians puzzled for centuries. It started with a single woman, Frau Trophäa, stepping into the town square. No one knows what compelled her, but she began to dance, not gracefully, but wildly. Her movements were frantic, unnatural. By the end of the day, she was still dancing. By the end of the week, dozens had joined her, and the chaos was only beginning. The story begins in mid-July of 1518. Frau Trophäa, an ordinary woman, began dancing uncontrollably. Neighbours gathered to watch, puzzled and amused at first. But their amusement turned to horror as hours stretched into days, and she showed no signs of stopping. By the end of the first week, around 30 people had joined her. Men, women, and even children danced alongside her, their faces a mixture of agony and frenzy. It wasn't long before the streets of Strasbourg were filled with bodies writhing and leaping uncontrollably. City authorities were baffled. They summoned physicians, who diagnosed the dancers with hot blood, a medieval belief that the body overheated, causing madness. Their prescription? More dancing? Stages were set up, musicians were hired, and the afflicted were encouraged to dance until the madness left their bodies. But this cure was a disaster. By late July, the number of dancers swelled to nearly 400. People danced until their feet bled, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Some reportedly died from heart attacks or strokes. The once lively streets of Strasbourg had become a surreal scene of despair. As August approached, the situation grew desperate. The city officials abandoned their initial approach and turned to religion. The afflicted were transported to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers. It was believed that Saint Vitus had cursed the people, and only his blessing could save them. At the shrine, priests prayed over the dancers and performed rituals to banish the curse. Slowly, the madness subsided. The dancers stopped, but the city was left reeling. Dozens had died, and hundreds were physically and emotionally scarred. The dancing plague was over, but the questions had only begun. Historical accounts of the dancing plague claim that people danced themselves to death. But how much of this is true? While some deaths were likely, modern historians have pointed out that 16th century records were often exaggerated. The idea of dancing to death could have been a metaphor, a warning, or simply an embellishment by frightened witnesses. Still, the physical toll on the dancers was undeniable. Imagine the agony of dancing for days without rest, the torn muscles, the broken spirits. Whether or not death was common, the dancing plague left its mark on history. Centuries later, scientists and historians have proposed several theories to explain the dancing plague. First, ergot poisoning caused by consuming rye bread contaminated with a toxic mold. Ergot contains compounds similar to LSD, which can induce hallucinations and convulsions. But skeptics argue that ergot poisoning typically causes seizures, not the rhythmic movement seen in 1518. Second, neurological or infectious disorders. Could it have been an unknown virus or neurological condition that spread through the population? Without medical records, we may never know. Finally, the most accepted explanation today, stress-induced mass hysteria, also known as psychogenic illness. Strasbourg was a city under immense strain. Famine and disease had devastated the region, and religious tensions were at an all-time high. The people's collective despair may have triggered this bizarre and uncontrollable phenomenon. In 1518, Strasbourg was on the brink of collapse. People were starving, diseases ran rampant, and fear of divine punishment loomed over every household. Mass psychogenic illness is a well-documented phenomenon, often triggered by extreme stress. When one person exhibits unusual behavior, it can spread like wildfire, especially in tightly knit communities. In the case of the dancing plague, the trauma and religious fears of the time may have pushed the people to the edge, causing their minds to manifest their pain in a physical, terrifying form. The dancing plague has captivated the imagination of artists and storytellers for centuries. It's been featured in novels, documentaries, and even video games. One notable retelling is the novel The Dancing Plague by Jean Tulle, which combines historical fact with dark fantasy. The event has also inspired episodes of TV series like Lore and has been referenced in countless horror films and Gothic literature. It remains a powerful metaphor for the fragility of the human mind and the strange, unexplainable ways we cope with trauma. So, what do you believe caused the dancing plague of 1518? Was it a poison, a curse, or the collective despair of a suffering city? Whatever the truth, this event remains one of history's most chilling mysteries, a reminder that sometimes the scariest horrors are the ones that truly happened. Share your theories in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to Dark Whisper for more stories that walk the line between history and horror. Until next time, stay safe and keep your whispers dark.